Hello everyone. Today we are looking at common patterns with nouns that show cause. We are in Unit 1 of the Grammar and Beyond 4 book. We are in Unit 1 and we are in Section 4. So we're looking at common patterns with nouns that show cause. This is also going to involve some vocabulary practice, and we're also going to be using some of our noun clause grammar that we have been practicing. So if we take a look here at the vocabulary presentation, it says cause and effect relationships can be shown in many different ways. One important way is through the use of the nouns cause, reason, and factor. These are all synonyms, so you can just kind of put an equal sign here. These are all synonyms. So we're looking at some of these different words, different vocabulary words, that all discuss the same thing. Cause, reason, and factor all discuss the cause of something, and then we can talk about effects. So they are one possible way to present cause and effect relationship. If we look at the three examples here, we've got one important cause of overpopulation is the lack of education. And right now in your grammar book, I'd like you to circle cause of. Cause of. The second one, low cost, is the primary reason why many communities use coal for energy. And right now, I'd like you to put brackets, that's these little squares, put brackets around this part. Put brackets around that. Do you recognize that grammar? What kind of grammar is that? We've been talking about this in our class. This is our noun clause grammar to describe a noun. So we know that we can use a noun clause after a noun to describe that noun. We saw that in our supplement book when we said it is important that, or it is certain that, or let's see, those are adjectives. Or when we said something like one reason is that, or the reason is that. And so we know that we can use noun clauses after a noun sometimes to kind of define that noun. In this case, these give us more information about this general noun. And so we're looking at why many communities, and we know this is a noun clause because we've got a subject, many communities, and we've got a verb. And then we also have our keyword, our grammar word here. So we have been talking about noun clauses. This should be review. And let's go back to the first one, cause of, and then what kind of word comes after this of? What kind of word is that? What part of speech is that? That is a noun. So we know that our prepositions, we have talked about this before, we know that our preposition must require a noun after it. So you must have a noun after a preposition. Let's look at the third example. Emissions from cars are a major factor in the increase in air pollution. I would like you right now to circle factor in. Factor in. This is a collocation. And then what kind of grammar comes after the word in? What part of speech is the word that comes after in? Hopefully you can see that this is a noun right here. We know that our prepositions always take a noun after it. So in this case, we are looking at cause, and you should try to learn the word cause as cause of. And then reason is reason that, or reason why, or reason, you can say, usually it's reason why or reason that. You could also, and you can make a little note right here, you can also say reason for something. And if you have reason for, what kind of grammar needs to come after that? What part of speech needs to come after that? If you say reason for, you need a noun after it because we know that our prepositions require noun. In this case, I'd like you to circle reason for. Reason for. So if we look at all of our circles, these are our collocations, those kind of best friend words that we talk about. They like to go together, best friend words. Cause of, reason for, factor in. Cause of, reason for, factor in. Okay, that's part of the vocabulary here. Let's take a look at some of the different patterns or different ways that we could use this. The following expressions and patterns are commonly used with the noun cause and some form of the verb be. So we're looking at our noun here and then our be verb. In this case, we are going to be looking at our main clauses as subject and verb. Subject and verb. So blank noun is one cause of. And again, we can see our collocation here, cause of, one cause of. So in this example, we'll just put a number 1 right here, and then this is the example number 1. A higher birth rate, this is our noun phrase, rate is the noun, is one cause of overpopulation. If we look at the second pattern or second style, you can say one cause of blank is blank. In this case, we've got another example over here. Another leading cause of overpopulation is the decline in death rates. Let's take a look at example number 1 and 2. And actually right now, I would like us to focus only on example 1. So I'm going to cover up example number 2. We have 2 different patterns here on the left. Let's take a look at example number 1. We have birth rate. Birth rate is one of our nouns. Is one cause of, and here we have our collocation, and then we've got our second noun is overpopulation. So in this case, we've got birth rate is one cause of overpopulation. They're showing us pattern number 1. But what if we want to take this sentence and put it into pattern number 2? How would we do that? Take a minute and think about it. We would have to say something like another, and in this case we're just talking about one, so we're just going to say one cause of, and again this is our one cause of, another cause of, a third cause of. We're still looking at our pattern here, cause of. And then what was our first noun? Higher birth rate, and I'm just going to use some symbols here. Higher birth rate. And this is our noun phrase. And then we need a be verb, is. And then we need our second noun. What's our second noun in this sentence? Overpopulation. We can see that these two are almost the same sentences, but we're looking at 2 different possible ways to say it. Higher birth rate is one cause of overpopulation, or one cause of higher birth rate is overpopulation. What if we wanted to change this even further? We'll get there in a minute. Let's take a look at example number 2. In example number 2, we can see the pattern from number 2. Another cause of overpopulation is declining death rates. What if we want to take sentence number 2 and put it into pattern number 1? Can you think of how to do that? If we want to take sentence number 2, our first noun, the one that goes in this pattern right here, in our example is overpopulation. The second noun is death rates. So if we take those 2 nouns and put them into the first one, it would look like overpopulation is, excuse me, I did it wrong. It would look like declining death rate is one cause of overpopulation. And we want to make sure that we keep this cause of overpopulation together. Cause of overpopulation, because that's the topic that we're talking about, and then this is our reason, declining death rate. Again, these two sentences say the same thing, but they just use a different style of grammar. Expressions with cause generally describe a negative effect. This is a vocabulary note. Right here, it's a note about the word cause. We usually use the word cause when there's a negative situation. The word cause does not usually occur with positive situations. So this vocabulary word, this word cause, kind of has a negative feeling with it. And we can see this example over here. Let's take a look at the next page. Nouns that show cause, reason, and factor. These expressions and patterns are commonly used with the noun reason and a form of the verb be. One reason why is, one reason is, one reason for. And if you notice here, what we're looking at is, this is our noun clause grammar. Excuse me. This is a noun clause. This is a noun clause. So in these two examples, you will need a subject and a verb in here. And then the reason is, this is our main clause. This is a noun clause. This is our main clause. The reason is. Let's take a look at the first example, number 1. One reason why the population is growing so fast is that death rates have fallen. In this case, this section in the brackets, this is our noun clause. The population is growing. Oops, we've got a glare there. And then we have our main clause, one reason is. Example number 2 shows us the same thing. One reason the population is growing so fast is the decline in death rates. Again, here we have our noun clause grammar, and we can tell that this is a noun clause because there's a subject and a verb, and we've got our noun clause keyword, and then we've got our main clause, the reason is. However, if we look at this part, the reason for, we know that our preposition needs a noun after it. So, if we look at this, we need just a noun or a noun phrase. It can be an adjective plus a noun, but you need a noun after the word for. And then we have our main clause, the reason is. If we look at example number 3, the real reason for our concern about overpopulation is, so here we've got reason for our concern about the population. This whole thing is a noun. It's part of our noun phrase, reason for our concern about overpopulation. It gives us more information about the type of reason or the specific reason. And this whole thing is working as our subject for this verb is. So we actually have just a simple sentence here with a preposition, a prepositional phrase, that's the for plus noun, to help give us more information about our noun. And we must have a noun after for. As we can see here, this is another noun right here, the concern. But the whole thing, the reason for our concern, that whole thing is working as the subject for the verb is. If we look at example 4, the primary reason for our concern about overpopulation is, this is the same thing. This whole thing right here is the subject, and we have a preposition after this noun, and this preposition gives us more information. the preposition must also be followed by a noun. You cannot have a new subject and verb after a preposition. And then example number 5 is actually, it's this whole thing right here. This whole thing is number 5. People are living longer, healthier lives. For this reason, the population has been increasing. And I'm going to just kind of bracket this whole thing out. This is all number 5, these two sentences. In this case, we'll notice that example number 5 has something a little bit different. Let's take a look at this. For this reason. What kind of grammar is that? Does that look different than the other examples? It should. You'll notice that there's a period before it, a capital letter, and a comma after it. What kind of grammar is this? This is a transition phrase. It's a transition. We know that transitions start sentences, and they must have a comma after it. So you might want to make a note right here that this is a transition. It needs to be after a period. It needs to be after a period, and we can see the period here. For this reason, or for these reasons, if there's more than one reason, and we can see the comma, and then you have a whole sentence after it. So you've got a sentence before it, period. You've got your transition, comma, and then you need to know a new sentence after it. We can see in our example, people are living longer, healthier lives, period. For this reason, comma, the population has been increasing. This is our second sentence. So again, this transition word starts a sentence. It has the same meaning as one reason why or what the reason for, but it's used differently. This phrase is a transition. It functions differently. Let's take a look at part D. These expressions and patterns are commonly used with the noun factor and the verb form be. Blank is one factor in, so this is one style, and one factor in blank is another example. We've got example number 1 over here and example number 2 over here. And we're just showing these two different styles. And these styles are very similar to what we looked at in the first part of part B. So we've got our noun phrase is one factor in, and again we can see factor in, and then we have our main clause with our be verb. If we look at the data from the real world section, whoops, and I need a new paper. If we look at our data from the real world section, we can see that this is a vocabulary note. It's not actually a grammar note, it's a vocabulary note about the adjectives that most frequently occur with these noun words. So we actually have 3 different chunks here. These are with the word cause. These are with the word reason. And these are with the word factor. Cause, reason, and factor. So we have 3 different parts. These adjectives right here often go with the word cause. They can go with other words, but the research from the real world shows that these words like to go with the word cause. And then this is our example sentence. So we've got the leading cause, the probable cause, the common cause, the root cause, the underlying cause, and so on. In this one, these words like to go with the word reason. They can go with other words, but most frequently they go with the word reason. So we can see like one good reason, major reason, real reason, main reason, primary reason, etc. And these adjectives most often go with the word factor. Important factor, another factor, major factor, key factor. So while you are practicing this grammar, it's a good idea to come back here and look at this vocabulary note to help you practice some of these collocations. For example, if I say a good factor, that is possible. We can use the adjective good before the noun factor, but to most English speakers, that sounds a little bit strange. The purpose of this box right here is to help you start practicing and developing some of these common best friend words. Most native English speakers know that good goes with reason. It doesn't usually go with cause or factor. Why? Well, that's just the vocabulary. So again, maybe you don't have that intuition, that feeling yet about these words. So this grammar box is trying to help you practice these words together to help you start creating that feeling and to help your brain